did you use this idea of a crew when you started building your team slowly?
I think I tried to. I don't think I've successfully built team. Part of it's been money and I raised money from friends and family. I put in some money myself. And so we grew, we were 15 people at our biggest. And then I thought we were going to raise a lot of money from investors. I couldn't raise the amount of money I wanted and I had to let people go. COVID also. So we've gone from 3 people to 15 back down to 4 people over the course of 4 or 5 years. And we're profitable now. But the people that I have around the table now are deeply loyal and it's a really good crew. But I never had a big team that was like really tightly bought into a vision and working perfectly. I never did it quite right. Um, I think I'd give myself a B or a B plus on a clear vision and having everyone bought into it. I think I hired too quickly and had too many people. One of my mentors taught me that nakedness is very important. If you have multiple people touching a problem within your company, then if that problem doesn't get fixed, it's unclear why. But if everyone has ownership of something, not only is it more likely to get done because they feel that ownership, but if it doesn't, you know who to talk to. Not in a blame game way, but just where to address the problem. You can take someone out to lunch or have a Zoom call with someone and really try to figure out why it's not working. But if you have 3 people tackling a problem, at one point I had 3 or 4 people trying to get brands to go from posting jobs to hiring photographers because we had a problem where they'd post jobs and then not see it through because they'd post them elsewhere or find a friend. So helping them through that process, I had 3 or 4 people working on that without a hierarchy. It was just sort of a little pack and it wasn't working at points. And it's like, I don't know who the problem child is. I don't know what the problem is. I don't know who to ask what the problem is. You need to give ownership on a pretty one-to-one basis. So the buck stops with someone so that when you have a question about why something's not working, you have someone with whom to brainstorm and collaborate.
If that's the case, and if you haven't yet built the team that you're ultimately aiming to build, how did you come to this idea and for the advice of building a team slowly and carefully?
I think by doing it wrong, I think a very common mistake, and you can read about it, like Paul Graham, who started Y Combinator, writes a lot about this, the fatal pinch, you know, getting money, hiring a lot of people. I think I've said this many times, entrepreneurs are so headstrong and confident, but they're also so insecure. And so when you are taking on risk every day and failing every day, you just want that hit of validation that you're on the right path. And that can come in the way of an investor investing or a big client signing a contract or like doing things. People will say to me all the time, just to be nice, friends and so on, how's it going? How's the company? And more than most, most people, you say, how's work? Oh, it's pretty good. Maybe they say, oh, yeah, it's good. I'm working on this project or my boss. Or somehow with startups, it's like you feel the need to give some sort of a headline, like really good. We're about to raise, or really good. We have, 12 employees now, or you feel the need to sort of like give a benchmark so people can be like, where is it in its journey? And having more employees sounds like you're doing well. So like, yeah, it's a team of 12 now. It's really exciting. We're making a lot of progress. You'll hear that a lot. Or we just raised money, or we just signed this big client. You need a headline. And so I think I rushed to solve a lot of different problems at once. We needed to do this, and what if we grew in this way, and this would be kind of cool. And I tried to do a lot of things, and I hired a lot of people against it. And I all of a sudden had 15 people that were burning a lot of money. Some of the things they were doing were less important. It's like if you had to grill 20 burgers for a barbecue, you could put all 20 on at once, or you could do 4 at a time and just sort of take your time. If you put all 20 on at once, you run the risk of forgetting if you forgot to flip one, if it's behind, if it's burning on one side, just more to keep an eye on. And when you have 15 employees and you've gone from 5 to 15 almost overnight, keeping track of that magnitude of people and managing and loving and caring for that magnitude is very hard. So building way slower, getting people that are really bought in, creating hierarchy and structure where they're reporting into each other. The anatomy of a team is very important, and it's a lesson I had to learn the hard way.
I'm curious, what does this carefulness look like for you, both on the day-to-day and the macro scale when it comes to building and just guiding your team?
So I think like, you know, I'll have 500K in the bank or so, the company will, in a month or two when a couple checks come in. And the question for 2021 is, how do we spend it? How aggressive? How fast do we try to move? And there's certain things on which we could spend it, like discount codes for new customers or Facebook ads, where I could be spending 30 grand a month on Facebook ads. And if all of a sudden I'm like, we're spending a little too much, I can make it 20K like that, or 10K or zero, cut it off, done. No more money leaves my account. If I hire a bunch of people and I'm burning 30K a month on their salaries because I hired 4 people and that costs 30 grand a month, and all of a sudden I'm like, we're spending a little too much money. That's a human being that left a job to come and work for me. And you tell yourself in the beginning, like, oh, if it's not working out or whatever, I'll just fire them. But then it's a human and you get to know them and you know their spouse or their friends or their family, or, it's like they have a life, about it, like I fortunately have remained very close to a couple of the people I've had to lay off, and I think they understood why, and I try to do right by them as much as possible. And we still speak a lot, but it's a pretty awful thing to do to someone. So sometimes you can't help it, but if you're more careful about hiring only when you really need to, doing it very slowly, you don't find yourself in a situation where, oh my gosh, we're spending too much money. It's like a plane that's like losing altitude in the old movies and they're like throwing stuff out of the windows. It's like, I don't care about my suitcase right now because I could die. You don't want to find yourself in that situation. So you want the right people, the people that are in it for the right reasons. And if you rush through the hiring process, inevitably people squeak in that just sort of want cash or are in it or hate their old job and want something new, or were laid off during COVID and would take anything. Like, you want people that really want to be in the room. And then secondly, you don't want to hire too many people so that you expose the company to risk and them to risk, whereby you might have to lay people off 4 months after hiring them, because that's just a terrible thing to do to someone.
What are the right reasons for you?
Yeah, it's not like I want to be a cult leader or anything like that. I just want people to believe in the vision, like believe in what we're trying to accomplish. In the most vague of terms, we're trying to bring creative work to those who don't have it, either because they live in a small town in Minnesota, or because they're a woman and men get most of the gigs, or because they're a minority, or because they just haven't had a lot of professional experience and they just don't have the momentum in their career. Democratizing creativity and helping brands and agencies get really good work for a reasonable price instead of a fat markup from a lazy agency. Like, that's, I think, sort of a noble thing, right? Like, everyone can win. Brands can save money and get it at a reasonable cost, and creators can make a living, whereas they might not have been able to before. And that we're building that bridge. And like, that's the pitch. So some people are like, yeah, like, I believe in this. My brother's a photographer. I was a photographer. I care about this, or I don't care so much about photography, but I love the idea of bringing work to people that don't have it. I believe in this mission. I will be excited to come to work every day. And those are the kinds of people I want. Or I'd even settle for, like, I just want a really complex problem and to throw myself into it and to believe in it and to put the puzzle pieces together. And it doesn't really matter exactly what it is, but I believe in the act of being curious and always getting better. But what you don't want are people that are like, I work a job, I get paid money, it's a transaction, that's all this is. I want people that have some emotional stake in this, and that they're willing to codify that with getting equity in the company, perhaps for even taking a little pay cut. So they might think they're worth 120. How'd you like to work for 105 and get $50,000 worth of equity? Like that could be worth a lot more. What I say to everyone is that they should I should give you enough equity to put you in a position. So that's my job, is to give you enough and not to be skimpy, where I want you to fundamentally believe that there's a good chance that your equity stake in this company is worth more than I will ever pay you in salary. That's like a line I use. So if you're making 70K a year and you work for 4 years, that's $280,000. If you own 0.3% of the company and we sell for $100 million, I'd like you to believe that you're going to make $300,000 when we sell. So you'll make more off of your equity than you ever would off of all of your salaries combined over the 4 years you work at the company. And if at least part of you believes that that's possible, then I think you're in the right room. And if you're like, nah, it'll never be worth that much, or it'll never be worth anything because I think this company's going to fail, then you're kind of in the wrong room.